So, two things that I just want to get right out of the way. Yes, I did write this right after I beat this game, and I realized that that was about 3 months ago, and the game even came out way before then. And two, yes, I'm releasing it now because I wrote it as well. So, yeah, start of a new thing that I want to try out, and maybe it'll turn into a thing, maybe it won't. So, I also figured, hey, you guys probably don't want to keep looking at me. I know, beautiful as I am, might be nice to just listen to my my sultry voice for a little while. So, getting right into it, that one little problem, that one little quibble, that one malevolent lingering problem. The biggest problem with Final Fantasy 15 is easily the story. The events are just kind of happening disconnected from each other. Characters who seem like they should be really big deals show up for 15 minutes and then just kind of disappear, looking at you, core. And the inciting incident of the plot takes place off screen in any movie that does not come bundled with the game. And all of that is without getting into how shallow the main characters are, how clearly cut to shreds the second half of the game is, and the nigh infamous, even after the patch, Chapter 13. Arden is a fun villain. I'm not going to try to argue that. I want to get that out of the way. He is a fun villain, and I really enjoyed having him as the antagonist of the game. But there's one thing that really doesn't get an explanation to the best of my knowledge. I want to preface it with that because it might, and I didn't notice it, but I want to throw that out there. Why at no point in the game do he and the Empire bring the full strength of their forces to bear against the Royal Boy Band? They have an expansive army with which they have subjugated most of the world. They just forced Noctis's father into an uneasy truce that turned out to be a trap, meaning no other kingdom could mobilize against them fast enough to save the boys. And our Sasuke Sad Boy is the last member of the Royal Lucii family. Nobody else can use the ring to relight the magical whatever that will save the day. 4 above-average combatants keep tearing through small groups of soldiers, and even when mechs show up, and eventually Noctis winds up giving orders to gods themselves. Why not send everyone at them at once and end the threat once and for all? Actually, speaking of tearing through enemies, I kind of want to diverge into the gameplay just a little bit for a moment, which is, I do like considerably more than the story, that's for sure, but I do have 2 little quibbles with it. It is a lot of fun to be able to directly control the protagonists and get away from the weird pseudo real-time active control attempting turn-based active time battle from Final Fantasy VII and Chrono Trigger that they've been doing with the 13 games and with 12 and all that. And for the record, Noctis does control like a dream. He's smooth. He's smooth as butter. But combat in groups usually turns into such a mess of visual effects that you really easily lose track of what's happening. And what's weirder is that magic is kind of alchemied into AoE grenades that have a friendly fire effect, which is confusing. So even when you're in those groups where, AoEs would be useful, you are disincentivized to use that magic because you will very easily kill your party. And I know that it's very fun to kill Prompto because he is worthless garbage, but it's still a problem when you can't use your most powerful abilities, save for the summons, because they will kill you and your team. Back to the story. So many problems. The game is such an obvious hatchet job that it is clear, even after an entire decade and a bit, that the game is not done. It's barely in a releasable state as it is. The gameplay is mostly fine, but the story clearly has just gone back and forth between all these different writers. I have great sympathies for the developers of this game, because I can't imagine saving this project could have been easy, but what it turned into is just a mess. But now we're going to discuss the real kicker, the ending, and not just the ending cutscene and all that, but the last 4 hours of the game, I guess. So Noctis sacrifices himself to relight a crystal and cleanse the world of darkness and demons so that his soul is finally able to rest with his fiancée Luna. That's about the gist of what I was able to figure out from the mess of cutscenes at the end. Obviously, you are supposed to be sad that he's dead, but happy that he is finally at peace with his love. although for as happy as they think it is, Ignis, Prompto, and Gladiolus are never confirmed to survive holding off the horde of demons outside as you duel Arden. And maybe I missed this in the part where you go back to the future and the world's covered in darkness and demons and you guys have to go finally finish the fight with Arden, but is there any reason the Niflheim can't just come back and reconquer the entire continent? Or did they kind of die out when demons started taking over the continent you're on? I may have missed that, but it doesn't really seem like it's all that happy of a sad, happy ending when there are that many glaring plot holes and omissions. And this comes after a final boss that you kill with a QTE, who is guarded by two damage sponge mini-bosses that are much harder than he is to fight, after you get back from Chapter 13. A chapter that's bad enough that, honestly, on its own, it would be game-ruiningly bad if every piece of content after the halfway point wasn't also dreadful. I mean, really, when you play this game, there is a section of the game where you're riding on a train and you pass through all these different countries and spaces and whatever, where you can see content has been ripped out of the game. Now, whether it's been ripped out for DLC later down the line, or whether that's just what was supposed to be the second half of the game, and just got cut because, dear Lord, we've been working on this game for 13 years, just put it out, I don't know. But the sacrifice of Noctis is rendered meaningless because the game has spent the last 4 hours making you hate him. And I'm curious how that slipped by them when they were writing the game. It seems like it'd be kind of a big deal to have the big, dramatic, emotional climax of your story, or not climax, I guess, conclusion to your story, be rendered so moot. I mean, honestly, I was glad to see him gone. I kind of cared a little bit if Ignis was okay, because I liked Ignis, but that was about it. So, yeah, that would be my my kind of major problem with Final Fantasy 15. Kind of a shame that it took them over a decade to put this game out, and when it came out, it was kind of not very good. And I guess I should have taken a lesson from that, because it's taken me 4 months to put this out. So yeah, I will see you guys later.